So I've been on the carnivore diet. I'm trying it. And I'm basically trying it based on Mark Bell and Chris Bell. I did the carnivore diet for all of January. I lost 12 pounds. I went into this thing thinking this carnivore diet was wacky, and I probably would think it's nonsense, but it's as good as I felt in a long time, and it's just 1 month.
Today we're going to be talking about Joe Rogan. I know a lot of people love Joe Rogan. My brother and I love Joe Rogan. We've been listening to him for a long time. I used to even like watching him on Fear Factor, although like that last thing that they did on Fear Factor every single time was always so disgusting. Like that third thing, remember they had to eat like a Madagascar hissing cockroach or something every time. It was just absolutely nasty. But we've been huge fans for a long time. My brother even listens to the show a lot more than I do. But he's got great information. He's a huge inspiration to many people. And not only is he inspirational and motivational, but he's also just a massive influencer. He's having a huge impact on a lot of people, and I think in a good way. I think that men really need Joe Rogan. I'm not sure if women need him, but I really feel that men really need him this day and age. And when he's had someone like Dr. Jordan Peterson on there before, you know, Jordan Peterson is somebody who men also need. We need to figure out like what's our value, what's our purpose in life. And Jordan Peterson kind of says, well, women, they kind of already have a built-in purpose. They know they want to have, or they're able to, you know, carry a baby, right? And men, we don't know. we don't know what to do. We're confused, kind of. We don't always know where to fit in, and we're always, I don't know. Men are trying to strive for greatness. Not that women aren't, but men are trying to strive maybe to places that are difficult to get to. And I think Joe Rogan puts it very plainly. Like, look, man, if you want to get any of this stuff out of life, it's going to be what you put into it. And I can't agree with that more. And so it's been amazing that we ever even had the opportunity to go on a show.
Well, it was awesome because I made Bigger, Stronger, Faster. Somehow weirdly got a phone call one day or an email saying like, hey, Joe Rogan would love to have you on his show. So my first question, which is kind of funny, right? Like you get asked to be on a show and my first question is like, can I bring my brother? And I said, hey, do you want to go on Joe Rogan with me? And it was awesome because like, to me, I got to give you something that was really cool. Like you had a company, you had something to promote, right? You had some things to talk about that were better than I had. And so I was like, I'd really like to bring my brother and you were really powerlifting, really strong at the time. I'm like, this is gonna be so interesting having somebody that can bench press 800 pounds talk to Joe Rogan. And I remember like it was yesterday, the very first thing that made me laugh was Joe Rogan was talking about steroid testing in the UFC. And he said that some guy tested 50 to 1 and you just started dying laughing. And you said, that's awesome. And then kind of like right there, then and there, like we kind of bonded with him right away. And he was just really cool.
Who figured that out? That's awesome.
And then the second time,
your levels that high.
The second time we were on there, I said, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing diets, red meat and water since 1995. And I told that story about how I've been doing this forever, and I think
for a powerlifting meat to try to make weight, right?
Yeah, I don't know because I haven't listened to every episode, but it may have been the first time anybody ever mentioned just eating meat on there. You know, I don't know if they've talked about that before, but you know, I talked about it wasn't even called the carnivore diet. I didn't know about the carnivore diet until later. I was at Gold's Gym, and my training partner said, "Do you see this guy, this idiot on Joe Rogan talking about just eating meat? It's like so ridiculous." And then, as soon as I heard it though, I was like, idiot? No, that's not an idiot. Like that guy's, I gotta listen to
and
this.
At that time, we already had a war on carbs and stuff too. We were
in ketosis.
Yeah, we were already promoting a low carb diet.
And that was a thing where it was like, okay, I gotta go listen to this. So I right away went and listened to Dr. Shawn Baker. Right away, we were filming some stuff, you know, and we invited Shawn Baker here. We're very lucky and very blessed in a way that we can pick up the phone and call somebody like Shawn Baker. And he's like, of course I know who you are. Like, I love all that shit, you know, and like, that's really cool. And he's like, of course I know who your brother is. I love all that stuff, you know, and when we invited him up here, he just came up here right away. He gave himself over to us and whatever you guys need, you know, let me know. And taught us the ins and outs of the whole diet. We interviewed him for several hours. Went and ate some meat with him, became friends with him, and it really started a cool, I think, friendship that he's basically like my mentor on all this stuff, you know, between you with like life and coming back from alcoholism, drug addiction. The two people I look up to the most in the whole world are like you and Dr. Baker, you know, because you guys really changed my life. You know, like I'm getting choked up talking about it.
Yeah, Dr. Baker is a great resource for us, mainly because, we don't always know, like what's going to happen to us when we don't eat other stuff. We get questions all the time about that, and then we don't want to be irresponsible and then not be able to communicate back to people on like what would happen. But people sometimes will say, well, you can overdo anything. And like, I don't know. I don't really know if you can overdo anything. Can you like overly love somebody too much? I don't think so. Can you overly tell someone how much you appreciate them? Like, I don't think so. Can you overly eat meat? I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I don't know how you would. Same thing with like love. Like you can only love somebody so much until you just like, well, they understand that I love them. I don't need to keep, telling them every 10 seconds. I don't need to text my wife right now, and it's not an emergency that I send her some kissy poos through the phone, right? She kind of already knows that, and I think the same thing here with meat. It's like meat it has such an abundance to it, has such volume to it. It takes a lot to even eat meat. Like it takes a lot of energy to even eat meat.
You heard of meat sweats?
Yeah. Well, and then also how much energy would it take to even get meat in the first place? I mean, now it doesn't take any energy, really, because you can just get like Uber Eats or something like that. But it used to take a lot of energy to get it, and then it used to take quite a bit to consume it. Now we still have quite a bit to go with consuming it, because you got to chop it up and eat it up and all these different things.
Well, we kind of substitute for that hunting by lifting and walking and training and doing other stuff that's difficult to challenge our bodies, and that's where a lot of people are missing out. Like a lot of people are doing carnivore and keto and stuff, but they're not really doing resistance training. And you're kind of like, well, what are you doing this for? Like you can get 10 times better the results by just throwing a couple weights around. You don't have to do anything hard. Like none of it's really that hard. It's simple. It's just that it takes a little effort, and you have to do it.
Yeah, and then fasting just mimics like not having food around. Like there must have been times where we didn't have a refrigerator, and there must have been times where we didn't have a pantry to walk to. But pretty much everybody that I know, even some people I know that aren't very well off, they have a refrigerator full of food, or a freezer full of food, and a pantry full of food. And in a lot of cases, they have extra fridges and extra freezers somewhere else in the house. And they got people have a lot of abundance of food. And there's not a lot of great reasons to continually eat so much. However, most of us, our fridges and pantries and all these different things that we store our food in, they're not full of just meat. And if they were full of just meat, then that wouldn't be problematic. But they're full of a lot of other things, and those things kind of override our body's ability to recognize when we're satiated. They mess with our body's ability to even recognize when we're hungry, because after you just ate something, you're still hungry oftentimes.
Yeah, and I like how this all progressed, because we were on Joe Rogan, Dr. Baker was on Joe Rogan, and then Jordan Peterson was on Joe Rogan. He talked about his gum disease and all the other issues. He was 50 pounds overweight.
Because he was trying a vegan diet, I think, right?
And Rogan's like, yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. But he was like, you look amazing, and he's telling him all this stuff. And how'd you get this way? And then Jordan starts talking about the carnivore diet, and he says, like, the greatest thing he says is, why is everybody fat and stupid? That's a question, Joe. I think it's what we're eating, and we're eating way too many carbohydrates, I think, is the problem. And he doesn't say it like definite. He also definitely says, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a guy doing this. And I like that too, because that's how we are. We're not doctors, scientists, but we're just people doing it, reporting back our results. And then after that, Joe Rogan invited us back on. He said, I want to talk to you guys about this carnivore diet. And we were so excited to go back on there. I actually texted him to ask him if we could come train at his gym, because we were going to LA, and I'm like, hey, can we come train? And he's like, yeah, come in on the 8th. And then you were like, hey, we're going to be on the podcast again. I'm like, we are? I thought he just said to come in and train. Like, and I was so excited. And then we went on there again, and we taught. At that point, I was doing carnivore for only about 4 or 5 months, and I had great results right off the bat, got a lot stronger right off the bat. But at the time, I was adding in fruit, which I definitely have taken back out now, because I realized that some of these things can sort of hurt me with arthritis and other issues that I have. But it was great, because we went on there, and then we kind of tried to hammer Joe Rogan into doing it for a while. We kept texting him, like, hey, come on, man, like, let's go, war on carbs. Then he actually maybe got sick of us and brought up the war on carbs. He's like, my friend Chris Bell, he writes war on carbs on everything. It's like, he's like, he thinks vegetables are bad for you. And I think he might have had a negative feeling about the diet at that point. Maybe, I'm not really sure. He's pretty open-minded all the time.
I think that's when people do get negative, is that when they hear that people think that vegetables are negative, then they get negative. They get defensive, because I think some people enjoy vegetables.
That's the way you word things and the way you say things too. And it's
we don't really care.
I never tried to bash vegetables. I just said, like, I don't eat them. You know, I don't eat them because I don't need them, is what I said basically. And then, but then, much to our pleasant surprise, by the time this World Carnivore Month came around, Joe Rogan got on the carnivore diet, and then he got on his podcast and he said something to me that just made me really proud of you and really proud of what we're doing to really help influence people and really try to just help people, give people a helping hand. And he said, I'm really doing this because of Mark Bell and Chris Bell and Jordan Peterson. And he's like, and mainly Jordan, because Jordan, he's like the smartest guy I know. And for me to hear that about you was awesome, because I know you struggled, like in school, you struggle with normal things, but I'm telling every single person out there, he's probably the biggest genius that I know. He invented a product that gave him everything that he's got, and you know, is supporting his family and will support the family for many generations to come. And I just think that that is so awesome and so powerful to just say, who gives a fuck if you're not good in school? It doesn't matter. I wasn't that great in school either, but I do have a really good memory, and all I did was regurgitate information. So I would study like the night before, get all the information, you know, pass my test, and then I'd forget everything. So like, I don't think you have to be the smartest person in the world to help people.
I just want to address this again, you know, about like being fat and dumb. You know, I think that people, they gloss over those things because they don't want to hear it. But first of all, parents will tell their kids, don't watch SpongeBob SquarePants. And then what's the reason that they tell the kid not to watch it? They say, oh, it will rot your brain, right? But the parent might be over there drinking alcohol. And, you know, we already know, we know that these things are damaging, right? So if we can think that, you know, maybe what the child's watching, like, I don't really agree with that. I actually think SpongeBob is amazing. It's like my favorite show ever.
Especially when it got the big pipes.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, Anchor Arms, that was an amazing episode. But I mean, I love SpongeBob. I love cartoons. I think they're fun. I think they're funny, and I think they have a place for kids. But yeah, sitting there watching it for hours on end, maybe it can kind of rot your brain. But if we can, you know, get our minds wrapped around the fact that what we consume can be junk for our brain. What you scroll through on Instagram can be junk for your brain, right? What we eat, what we consume, can be junk for our brain. And so if you start to take that logic and you recognize the fact that a Dorito never came from like a forest, or never came from the ground, or never really naturally came from the earth, then we would think, okay, that's probably some junk that is going to have some sort of cost, and maybe it can potentially make us fat and dumb. I really do believe that it's not so much just carbohydrates, but I think that they do play a role in there. I think the large influence of overeating on a consistent, constant basis, day in and day out, not allowing your body to really take any sort of break from eating. People are just kind of eating throughout the day. People are eating 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day. 15
times is actually the average. That is like a statistic, I think.
Yeah,
because people snack all day.
Yeah. People are snacking.
15 times a day.
Consuming drinks. I mean, just damaging their metabolism pretty much all day long. And then does that give your body the optimal time to recover, the optimal time, or is it even optimal at all for your body? And the answer is no. It's just not optimal. It's not optimal for your brain. It's not optimal for any of this. And it's great to have somebody like Joe Rogan that gives so many people an opportunity to get on his show, and then he showcases this person, and he's not afraid to showcase different sides and different things, and he's had different people on with a lot of different perspectives.
I love what he does with his friends, like Tom Segura. He's an amazing comedian. He's hilarious.
He's doing Carnivore too, right?
Yeah, he's doing Carnivore. Bradley Martin trains him, you know? So I think like those are really cool things. And like Bert Kreischer, you know? He's always been made fun of because he goes up on stage with his shirt off and he's really fat and out of shape. And now Bert Kreischer's down to like 205 and he looks great and he feels awesome. And he's not drinking as much. Like the positive influence that Joe Rogan is having on all these people that just come on his podcast. What happens is like, you know, when I was an alcoholic, you influenced me. I got better. I influenced others, you know. it's like Rogan's influencing his friends. They're going to go out and influence other people. Those people are going to go out and influence other people. That's why you guys need to like leave comments here, start talking about this, generate some buzz about what you're doing, help others, reach out. When you reach out, it's going to help you probably more than it helps the other person. So it's even a little selfish, but that's okay because you're helping people.
Yeah, and when you get in conversation with somebody and somebody says, hey man, you lost 10 pounds, what are you doing? Try not to skirt around the situation, you know, just tell them flat out, say, hey, this is what I've been doing. And they say, hey, is that good for you? Say, look, you know what? You asked me what I'm doing. You've seen me before. Last time I saw you, I was 20 pounds heavier. This is what I'm doing. Hey, isn't that bad not to eat vegetables? Again, last time you saw me, I was 20 pounds heavier. I feel amazing. I think you should try it. And just try to leave it at that. You don't have to say anything bad about their nutrition or anything weird about what they're doing or not doing. You just say, this is what I've been doing. You've seen the results. You should go give it a shot.
Exactly. You be the change that you want to make, right? Like that's what they say. Like you be that change. You show people like they're going to come up to you. Like I wrote this on Instagram the other day. If you want what we have, you know, then you're ready to take these steps. And then I wrote out, you know, just like the steps of AA that I went through to get sober. And I wrote these things out like, hey, you have to admit that you have a problem. You have to believe that something bigger than yourself, like the carnivore diet, or if you believe in God, whatever you want to believe is your higher power, can deliver you from this problem. You have to, you know, there's certain steps that you have to go through in order to get there. And I think that that's really important that people like realize a lot of this is kind of an addiction. A lot of people argue whether food is an addiction or not. I believe that it is. I believe like a lot of people are just, you know, because what's the one thing that everybody asks us as soon as we tell them that we eat meat? What else do you eat?
Right.
Nothing. And like what, how do you do, like that's impossible. And you're like, well, no, not really. But like, I know it sounds crazy, but it's done a lot of great things for us. And by no means are we trying to say that everybody should go eat meat. Our job and our goal is to get you off your ass and go out there and research this stuff yourself. If you think we're full of shit, go find out. You know, go do it yourself. Go try it, but try other things as well. See what works the best for you. It doesn't necessarily always have to land on carnivore, but I think people need to know about carnivore because I'm helping several people right now, several women actually right now that want me to help their fathers. Because they're, you know, these girls are like in their 30s and they're seeing their father's like, you know, 60 years old and he can't walk anymore and he's out of shape and he's like, and it's like they want their father, you know, I'm 47, so they're looking at like, okay, well, he's not that much, you know, younger really. So it's like they're looking at me going like, help my dad. And to me, that's really cool. And by helping these parents, hopefully that spreads the network even further.
Yeah, and when it comes to, you know, people that are older and they just have really crappy diets, you know, a lot of our younger kids have a shitty diet. A lot of people that are probably like, I don't know, above the age of 35 to like 55, they probably start to learn about, look, I should have some precaution with what I've been doing. I've been drinking too much. They probably have like a realization. They probably have, you know, at some point just decided, hey, you know what, I'm way fatter than I used to be and I need to make a change, and they probably try to work on it. But people that are outside of those numbers, you know, they really usually have poor nutrition just by like proxy. They're not even trying to have bad nutrition. They're just part of the standard American diet, and they're just used to doing that. And so the kids eat like other kids, and grandma and grandpa eat granola and don't ever eat any protein. And everyone kind of just eats the same just because that's what they've always been taught. And the, you know, Quaker oatmeal box, you know, that has the brown sugar in it, still has the heart on it. And so that's what people think is a good idea. And it's just not. And there's just so many, there's just some small changes that you could make that could end up having a huge impact. I realize it's a big deal to try to, you know, ditch carbohydrates from your diet. But even if you just lowered them, you would be heading in a better direction than wherever you're heading to now. So it doesn't always have to be that you just boom out of nowhere go carnivore. You could start to lighten up the amount of carbohydrates that you consume. You can start to get rid of some junk, and over a period of time you can start to, you know, make your way towards a more strict diet, a ketogenic diet, a carnivore diet. I like to kind of call this diet a meat-based diet because it's not the only thing that I eat all the time. I'll have protein shakes, I'll have dairy, I'll have cheese, I'll have, you know, I got other influences of some stuff here and there. Just because I found that I don't want it to be so restrictive. I want to have my playbook open up a little bit, and then also just getting some different energy and different vitamins and minerals from some different foods is also really fun. And then on top of that, having like a treat here and there is amazing. Like having like a treat that's like a keto treat or something. You know, it's been a long time since I've like just dove into some pizza or ate a burrito or ate ice cream or anything like that. And I don't have any plans on doing anything like that anytime soon. But you know, it feels good to occasionally have like a keto treat or something just slightly off the diet. But I know Rogan recently was talking about he might, you know, cheat on the diet like once a week. I don't think I can really do that for myself for now. I don't think it would be smart.
Well, it can kind of set you back a couple days. I think like for
and I'm not talking about weight loss or body comp. It wouldn't make any difference at all.
Just
if anything, it might make me even look better. I don't know, but it.
And yeah, I think even Joe will find like he'll go like he said. I think I figured it out. 6 days on, 1 day off, and I think he'll go from six days on, 1 day off to 6 days on, maybe one meal off, like maybe like one thing that he wanted, you know, each week, because it gets to that point where you're like, you know what, it's just not worth it. I don't feel good, and it actually took me 2 full years to get to that point. Like, I am sick of other shit now. Like, I'm not touching it. After I had an incident recently, and I talked to you about it, I was on your podcast, and I was kind of depressed, and I was in a lot of pain. And I know that it was from cheating on the diet. Like, I could single out that that's what it's from, because nothing else changed. Everything else was 100% constant. And so, for me, I'm done with it, you know.
6 days on, 1 day off, you know, like stuff like that would work if it wasn't a giant step backwards, you know. The problem is, I think that oftentimes it's too far of a step backward. It's hard to even really compare it to something, but just imagine if somebody, you know, Joe Rogan loved jiu-jitsu, right? So imagine if he went to jiu-jitsu, you know, he went to jiu-jitsu 6 days a week, but then somebody erased, they took his memory away from 3 of those days because he skipped the one, you know? He would never be like trading that out. Even if they pulled 1 day of training away from him, he would never be like making that trade. And so you kind of see my point is like, you're not just eating bad and like kind of just letting your hair down and just enjoying yourself for the day and kicking your feet up. You are taking some giant steps backwards that are they have a negative impact. There's no free lunch. Like, just because you feel deprived doesn't mean that your body's going to be like, okay, because you feel deprived, we're not going to cause any inflammation. Like, you don't have to worry about us. Just because you don't think it's that bad, like, we actually think very differently of it. Like, the way the human body is going to decipher what comes through that front door is going to be way different than the way that you're like, oh, you know what, I haven't had this in 3 weeks, so I'm just going to eat it. They're unrelated. Your body's going to be like, no way, that's some bullshit you're throwing in here, and we ain't having it.
And also, in my opinion, I think weight loss is just way overrated. I don't think we should think in terms of weight loss. I think we should think in terms of what the carnivore diet actually does. It preserves and builds muscle. And if you talk about this all the time, worry about building muscle, not necessarily burning fat. And if you turn on all the things that build muscle, you're gonna burn fat. Right. But you're also gonna be more muscular. You're gonna look better, you're gonna feel better,
it'll be a lot easier,
and you're gonna live longer,
fat,
according to all these studies that we have.
Also too, and I've mentioned this a lot in the past too, is, you know, you don't lose weight and get healthy. You get healthy and then you're able to lose weight. So one way to get healthy is to be well nourished, well fed. You know, I think like when you see a kid that's like a big kid, you know, he's like 4 or 5 years old, you're like, oh man, that kid's like well nourished. You know, you're not really saying he's fat, you know, but he's a thick, blocky looking, strong looking kid, right? And I know it sounds funny to do as an adult, but that's kind of what you want to do, is you want to be like well nourished. You want to be well fed, and you want to be able to go train with some sort of intensity. You want to be able to exercise with some sort of intensity. I'm not saying to, you know, be like way overweight or anything. I'm just saying to really feed yourself the stuff that you actually need, and don't feed yourself any of the stuff that you don't need. And when you go to the gym, each and every time you go to the gym, you'll be able to put up points on the scoreboard. You'll be able to lift some pretty heavy weight. You'll be able to get some really good results from that. You know, you need a certain amount of resistance in order to kind of cause change each time you go to the gym. And so you're going to be able to do all those things if you're well fed. But if you're under eating all the time and you're just like, I'm trying to burn fat, your body's going to be very resistant to it. You're not going to be eating enough calories. You're just not going to feel very good.
I was that guy for years. Mark knows. Him and Stan talked me out of it. I mean, I was doing stupid shit. I was going to the gym every day, doing an hour on the stair climber, and not eating and not sleeping. It was the worst thing I could possibly do. I was skinny fat. I weighed 180 pounds. But today, I weigh like 182 pounds. and I look completely different than I looked back then. So, and I've gone, you know, mainly I've been up around 200 pounds for most of this carnivore diet journey. It hasn't been about weight loss, but what happened was I turned into a big fat meatball, and then you start turning into more of a ball of muscle. And I'm not totally where I want to be yet, but that's actually great. I think if I got where I want to be, like, you know, really fast, or I got, like, there's somebody's making me earn it, if it's God or whoever, but I think I thought it was going to be really easy. If I just eat meat for like a year, I'll be shredded. And it just doesn't, like, body doesn't work that way. You know what it makes you do? Respect bodybuilding a lot.
Yeah,
and respect what you did with that show and stuff. Like, to get ripped like that, like, I would have to go to a different level.
Well, you know, your perspective changes too, right? You know, you don't get like lean overnight, so you start losing, you know, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, and 4 pounds, and 8 pounds, and 10 pounds, and so on. You start losing a bunch of weight, and you're like, oh, I look pretty good, but it's a slow progression, and so you're like, I could look better. You get in good shape again, you're like, I could look better. You get in good shape again, you're like, you could always look a little bit better. So you're just like, this is just where I'm at right now, and you don't really feel like, you feel good about it, you feel okay with it, but it's just your perspective has changed, because you didn't even think you can get this far a lot of times. That's what happens. You know, for me, like with bench pressing, you know, I benched 705 in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and before my career was over, I benched 854. And I even benched 950 in training and benched 887 at a meet where I just didn't quite lock it out. But I got close to those like 900 pound marks, but I never, when I was benching, even when I first benched 600, I never even really thought about 700. You know, and then when I benched 700, I was like, well, you know, now I got to try to bench 750. Like, I was always trying to do more, but I never thought about the next thing. And even when I did 1,000, I wasn't like, okay, now I'm definitely going to squat 1,100, because I knew how hard it was to squat 1,000, but I damn near came close to it, squatting 1,080. So I think the same thing happens with your body. You keep getting in better shape, and you're like, I had no idea I was going to be able to get to 10% body fat. And now you're like, I want to be 8. You know? Yeah,
the perspective change is great. We've had a lot of people come in here telling us they want to deadlift 900 pounds, but they can't even deadlift 500 yet. And so you gotta, like our dad says, you gotta learn to crawl before you learn how to walk, and you gotta learn how to walk before you learn how to run. And that's something my dad said in Prescription Thugs, and it always sticks with me, because our older brother, Mad Dog, who's not here anymore, was always trying to sprint out the gate, but he didn't have the tools necessary.
Yeah, he was trying to be great at stuff, but the only way to be great at anything is to be good at it a lot, you know? So you got to bring it every single day. You got to be good for a long ass period of time.
I'd rather be dead than average, but like, honestly, when you're an alcoholic and a drug addict, you're not even average. You're way below average. Yeah. So I think you have this bigger feeling about yourself. You can't see it, which is really sad.
It is sad, but once you start going through the daily grind of doing it every day, then you just understand. You're like, I ain't shit. You know, I gotta do this for a really, really long time, and even then, there's no guarantees. That's all the time we got. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. In the comments, let us know what you think. Catch y'all later.